Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Goober Garage. First of all, I owe you guys an apology. It's been like a month since the last time I put a video up. I got sick, I went on vacation, it was 35 below zero, bunch of excuses, but basically they were just that, excuses. So, got the lighting done, got this done, and as I'm sure many of you are wondering about mostly, there is progress being made on this. This is not at a standstill. Stuff is happening. The coronet is going to happen. There are 2 videos left on this. Once that's done, we get to going on this. So for now, enjoy the videos that are left. Let's go. This is going to come as a surprise to, well, none of you, but shockingly, the test ride ended up escalating slightly, and the machine that I was planning on keeping clean to finish working on it, well, is already not so clean. But what that does mean is I get to bust open the new pressure washer and clean it up so I can finish it. I also adjusted the height of the front shocks and took about 1.5 inches out of the front, which did 2 things. It leveled the height so it's no longer riding high in the nose, and it clears and just barely rubs the door as it goes in. It can now be pulled back into the garage to work on. Before that happens, I need to clean it, so it's time to bust open the new pressure washer, hit you guys with some time lapse, and get this thing cleaned up enough to bring back in the shop to finish doing some work on it. Let's go. Well, slap me in a skirt and call me impressed. I am quite pleased with the performance out of this new machine. Now, this was $300. Got it from Home Depot, got it online, shipped straight to the house. It's the Ryobi 2.3 gallon per hour, 3200 PSI gas pressure washer. That thing's awesome. I'm sure I'm going to get to use it more, especially because we've got some stuff coming up that needs to be cleaned for the coronet. But I would say this thing's ready to roll back into the shop. Let's do some work. Now that that's back in the shop, it is time to do some shop cleanup, get everything organized, get the new workspaces set up so that this can get finished and get on to some other projects. I'm going to be ripping that stove out so that I can install a pellet stove, and I need to get all of my tools cleaned up. In the meantime, I'm going to throw you guys on for an epic cleaning montage! Da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na! Just like that, through the power of editing, we have returned. What was a couple seconds for you guys was a couple days for me. Let me give you a quick update. Got the old cast heater out, got a new pellet heater installed, doing a bunch of other stuff, did a bunch of cleanup. That's going to be in a different episode for shop renovations. For the people who just want to watch the wrench turn and tech stuff, we're going to get back to that here. Let's refer back to our list. We did this, 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 and that was a big success. Up next, we have to put the winch in the bumper, put the bumper back on, put the skid plate under it, and we also need to put protective plates behind and under the seats to keep mud out and make the new air intake. This is going to be later. That'll be once snow falls. Today's mission is to get this stuff done. Once this stuff is done, we get to do this. I'm going to be honest, that's my favorite part. Turning the wrenches is awesome and doing the work is great. Putting new parts on is always fun. What's more fun than that is going out and beating the absolute dog snot out of your new toy. And this thing has already proven to be an absolute blast. I look forward to playing with it more. I'm going to toss you guys onto a time lapse. I think I'm going to go skid plate first, get the winch in the bumper, and then cut some cardboard, make some templates, and I will show you guys that process, so in case you need to do any custom fab of your own, you've got a little better idea of how to do it. Let's go. Quick tip. If you have hardware that looks like that, where it's full of gunk and it looks like, well, rusted, dirty gunk, you have three options. Option one, line it up, send it in, hope for the best. That's not a great option. Option two is what I'm going to do, is a wire brush and anti-seize. Now that is going to get all the crap and gunk and junk out of the threads of your hardware so that it's roughly back to where it was. It won't ever be as good as new because obviously that rust is taking away some of the material that the fastener is made of. However, it's a lot better than just shoving these back in dirty. The third option and the best option is to replace this hardware if you can. I didn't order new hardware for this, and I don't want to wait for it to come in, so I'm going to clean this hardware and then reuse it with a bunch of anti-seize to keep it from binding up and hopefully prevent some of the rust. Just a quick note of personal preference. When you have this many bolts to put in on a piece that's this long, spread across here, I like to put them all in by hand first and then go through and I'll torque them in with the impact. The problem is if you throw all of your bolts in right away, or you throw and try to do them in an order, if there's any issues with misalignment, then you're going to be fighting yourself on the backside and you'll have to unscrew everything to then shift it into place, get them all in, and then tighten it. I like to get all of my bolts started and then go around and tighten them all in. Let's make this go back up there. Just like that, the skid plate is back on. And we now have protection for our bottom side. It's very important to protect your bottom side. You know what I mean. Next up, we're going to get the winch and the winch plate adapter mounted into the bumper. Yay, new parts! As you saw there was a little back and forth in figuring out what lined up with what, where all this stuff was supposed to land, because obviously different kits have different options. There's different bolt spacing for different winches. I got the KFI kit for both the mount and the winch. It is very important to mock up and make sure that everything fits before you go through the entire process of assembling everything just to find out that it doesn't fit. This one obviously does. It looks awesome. Now I'll go on and put the rest of the mounting plate up front. Then we wire it up. So we had some fitment issues. On the back side of this, there are some old brackets from where I had a light bar mounted in here that were interfering with the mounting of this front plate. The winch wouldn't go up to where it was supposed to. I'm going to show you two really quick tricks that'll make assembly a lot easier if you're doing it by yourself. The first one is quite simple. Just some masking tape. Those bolts kept falling out. Now they won't fall out. Now obviously you can't do this to tighten the bolts, but for initial setup, this will keep all of the bolts in place that I don't have to hold from the back side. So I can flip it over and everything lands where it's supposed to. So this is going to drop right back on here, and those bolts stayed right where they're supposed to. Now I can toss all this hardware back on, and I'll have to put a wrench on the backside to tighten it up, but that at least holds it enough that I can get the washer and the nut on so that the entire piece itself cannot fall off. This makes life much easier. The second tip is you will notice that the bolts in the front of this that hold all of the stuff ahead of this plate kept falling out. So to keep those from falling out, I'm going to take 2 little pieces of cardboard and just wedge them behind them so that I have access to them. I'm going to switch back to camera roll, but that was your quick little snippet of knowledge to make your assembly life quite a bit easier. Let's go. The winch is in, and we are ready to reinstall it into the machine. We now have a nice new beefy KFI 4,500 pound winch. Let's get the bumper back on. Everything is installed. Obviously this wiring is not permanent. I want to get wire loom for the stuff that leads to this remote connection. This is the plug-in for the actual controller. I think I'm going to punch a hole through here and have that connector right there. I like that location. So I pulled a little bit of winch lead out. I'm going to go ahead and plug the winch in, and let's see if it runs when it's not running. So we want in. We have nothing. Let's see if we turn the key on. We still have nothing. Okay, we have power. Everything's hooked up. Engage. Wiring's all good. This wiring's all good. This is all good. Press it. Why do we have no power? Okay guys, I'm going to troubleshoot this real quick and then I'll fire the camera back up once it's working. So the disconnect was all of this wiring, shown in this wiring diagram. Shows this wire connecting straight to that wire. No external. However, if you go back into the step-by-step instructions, it tells you that you need to splice the end of the red wire to an ignition key-controlled power source using the wire splice. First of all, don't ever use these. They're crap. And the problem is, if you put a wire splice connector on a vehicle that's going to vibrate, it's going to vibrate loose. If it doesn't vibrate loose, you have now created an open connection for water to get in, and that's not watertight. Water does get up inside of here. This is your control bar and your wiring that goes to your switches on your dash. That is where you are supposed to hook that red wire up using heat shrink connectors so that it properly seals. Now that this is all wired properly, we can plug the winch in and it will work. Got to turn the key on. Key is on. And the winch works. Hey, we have victory. All right. Up next, I am going to go ahead and get this all buttoned up in here. I'm going to zip tie the rest of the wiring up. This is going to stay loose for now because that red wire is loose and exposed, and I want to put that inside of wire loom because it's the right way to do it. This stuff is all exposed as well, which it's a connection. I'm just going to wrap this up with electrical tape. for the purpose of, one, making it look a little nicer, and two, helping seal this, because as you can see by the mud inside of here, if you're splashing through deep mud pits, water does get in there. And I don't like water in my electrical components. So I'm going to get this sealed up, and then the winch installation is done. And we get to start doing some fab work, do some custom stuff. Just like that, we have clean wiring, wrapped up, zip tied back, secured, properly wired, and everything works. Let's do some fab.